Hello everybody, my name is Aamir and today I'm here with Rick Posch. He's been premiering a new physics rapid review section that will be on YouTube January 1st. His channel is Rick Posch-Physics Teacher, and we're very excited to be introducing him now. Hello everybody.
Hey, hi. I'm excited to be here too.
Yes.
Aamir, we didn't introduce you, but we should let all know that Aamir is a former student of mine at Westford Academy, the public high school in Westford, Massachusetts. And Aamir and I are both class of 2024, right?
Yes,
because you graduated as a student and I graduated as a teacher. I am recently retired.
Yes, I took your junior year class, so his high school honors physics 1 course. Yes, and it's a very nice class. We're here to talk about that, and we're here to talk about you. So let's start us off. Tell us more about yourself and your history. Before we go to the rapid review, actually talking about that, talk about yourself. What did you do before WA? What kind of scientific things and experiences did you have going into teaching?
Well, yeah, I'm kind of unusual as a teacher in that I taught for a little over 5 years, both at Westford Academy and in Burlington, Massachusetts. But before that, I have a kind of a long and storied high-tech career, a variety of different industries and in variety of different roles within companies.
I know you've mentioned sound, you've mentioned lighting design, I believe?
Yeah, so I worked on entertainment technologies most recently, once in a laser company called Laser Light Engines that is a company that puts lasers inside of cinema projectors to make them brighter and better for different kinds of entertainment. And then also I worked at Bose Corporation for a period of time working on their demonstration systems. So I would put together the technology for how a Bose product would be demonstrated, say, in a store.
All right. That's very interesting. Now, how did you transition from that sound design, working at Bose, to going into a teaching job?
Well, it was just a long-time interest. So it was something that I always wanted to do, and I just started learning how to do it by talking to teachers who I knew, especially people who were engineers or scientists and became teachers. Like, what's that transition like? So I talked to different people. I had good guidance on that, and I just learned how to make that transition.
And now that you're retired from WA, why did you decide that this approach to a rapid review, an online YouTube review, was the best way to continue your passion for teaching?
Well, I thought it would be easy. It was.
It was not easy.
It's always harder than you think. You know media production, right? So it always takes 8 times longer than you expected it to, and this was no exception. Honestly, I really thought, oh, I could get this knocked off in about 2 weeks. A couple episodes a day, no big deal. And it took, with help here at Westford Community Access Television, a couple months worth of work. Yeah. So I wanted to take material that I already had and recycle it, right? Because I thought it was pretty good material. It had been refined over the course of the number of years that I was teaching. I liked it. I wrote it. Most of it I wrote, so I felt comfortable with it. I just thought it would be a good use of an existing body of work.
Because most of the slides and topics that you cover were all material that you yourself had created, and you yourself have all the drawings that are on all the slides. That's all you, and after your years of teaching that you've created, correct?
Yeah, I would say that's 95% of what you saw on those slides came from a blank slide that I either typed or wrote on. And yeah, so that's where that material came from.
And for the viewers who aren't familiar or haven't gone to see it yet for a rapid review, tell us a little bit about what the format of one episode of your rapid review would look like.
Oh, yeah. So I thought this through in advance carefully, what I wanted. So I started with anything I did in class that was in the form of a slides presentation. We might call it a Google Slides or a PowerPoint, right? So only that. And as you well know, that's like 1/4 of the class, because there's homework sets, there's problem solving, there's labs. It's not that stuff. It's just the presentation stuff, because I thought that would map best to this format on YouTube. Then I shortened everything. So what you saw as maybe a 30-minute presentation in class with discussions and demos and everything got squeezed into, about 10 minutes for
Is that
an
the
episode.
average length of
The
one episode?
average is 8 minutes and 45 seconds.
Oh my God, you have all the data on
that I
lock.
checked it out.
Yeah.
My target was 10 minutes.
Okay.
I wasn't, I didn't get too strict with myself on that, but that was always my goal. And as mentioned, the average was under 10. The longest is maybe about 12 minutes or so. So it's a nice chewable bite. It's my limit for how much I want to watch on YouTube, 10 minutes. If it's 14, I'm not ready to commit.
And who is your audience for these rapid reviews?
Yeah, the audience is, as I did it, I kind of placed myself mentally in the classroom with people like you, right? Hearing about it and thinking of it as a review, because it's only 10 minutes, so it's squeezed in. I have to do the highlights. But I imagine that as the audience, and I think for the YouTube series, the people that will benefit most are people that are taking that exact same course at Westford Academy. But that's the same as just about any high school physics class anywhere in the United States, perhaps in the world. So I think it'll be useful to anyone studying physics at the high school level.
So even though you taught at Westford and you taught this Westford curriculum, it's broad enough that it spans to anybody. It could be somebody else in Massachusetts, but it could also be somebody in Colorado who needs help with their physics.
Absolutely. If you're in Colorado and you're taking physics and you don't hear about Newton's laws, it's not a physics class, right? So seriously, right? So that's the content of a physics class is pretty well defined, like what people want in that, and especially a first-year class.
Yeah. And how many total videos did you create over this span of a few months?
38.
38 videos.
38 videos, yeah.
Wow.
And if I had said that before I started, I wouldn't have started. The other is the total length of time. If you do the math, the 8.5 average times 38, it's 5.5 hours worth of content.
Wow.
So if I had set out to do 5.5 hours worth of content, I wouldn't have even started.
How much did you anticipate making beforehand?
Well, I could do the math mentally, but not emotionally. And I neglected the fact that you're an actor, there's a presentation. If you do anything, you have to prepare.
Yes.
You have to think about what you're going to say, and then there's a lot of technical follow-up as well to get things onto YouTube and index them, and there's learning how to do all that. So,
but it seemed in the moment that when I was watching them, it seemed that you were very, very comfortable delivering and giving out all this knowledge. It felt like I was kind of like in the classroom. All this stuff. You've been teaching for 5 years at this point. You've created these slides. It did have that natural flow of exactly what you're talking about.
Well, good. I'm glad you experienced it that way. Yeah, I was very comfortable. I am very comfortable with the content, like what those messages are. I'm pretty comfortable with that, and I know what I want to say and why I'm saying it.
All right. Let's talk about why teaching and why this method a little bit more. So you've retired from Westford Academy. What went into choosing to retire from teaching and moving to a different method of teaching instead of going into maybe some other science area, or just retiring and ending all physics teaching at all? Yeah,
I love the subject, and I really love teaching. And the only reason I retired was it got to be too all-consuming. Your teachers, all you teachers out there, are working really hard, right behind, like you see the classroom and you see the presentation, and it's all fun. And then there's a lot of work outside of the classroom. And for me, that began to feel like it was consuming a lot. And fortunately, I had the flexibility to be able to say, okay, I think I'm going to stop doing that full time. I already miss it. I really miss being in the classroom with students. I'm doing some on a volunteer basis. I'm doing some tutoring right now. I love it. I'm doing some, I will soon be doing some traveling demonstrations, science demonstrations, more on that once that finalizes. But that would be visiting other classrooms and doing demonstrations and presentations.
Very nice.
So I can't stop.
And so that in-person connection is something that is craved or needed
I think
for
so.
your teaching?
Yeah, I think so. Because as I did the rapid review series, it's a very solitary task. You know, it's like you're in the room with a camera, and you have help, by the way. And I do want to take the opportunity to thank Nick Woodbury, who did all of the camera work, all of the video switching here at Westford Community Access Television, for the work he did in making the rapid review what it is and all the professional look it has. So,
Big thank you to Nick, yes.
Yeah, but in the studio, it's different. You know, it's like I'm a musician. Live performance is very different than recording in the studio, you know, and I just like being in the room with people.
You approach physics and teaching with a very joyful and enthusiastic approach. What do you think makes physics specifically a continually exciting field for you, and how do you find the enjoyment in teaching things that you've taught before? How do you find the enjoyment in continuing? Is it the physics or is it the teaching?
Well, after a while, it becomes the teaching, right? Because the physics is not news to me, you know. But I still love the topic. I am not bored with physics at all. It's really interesting to me, and you can always think. Why physics among the sciences? You can always think of a demo to do, like in the classroom, like. Any topic that we study, right? There's a demonstration, like I can show it.
Yeah.
Right? So I like that reality of physics as a topic. And then I discovered as I was teaching, I just like it. You know, it's fun. And you can always do better. Like, even though, I presented Newton's third law already 6 times, but I want to do a little better. I want to do it. I have an idea. Like, there's a lot of creativity in it, and that never runs out, or it hasn't run out yet for me.
And even though you were virtual, we do see you doing demonstrations. You had a demonstration table set up, and smaller demonstration scales, but definitely you were still getting to do that hands-on.
Yeah. For me, bigger is better with a demo, right? But here in the studio, I did what I could tabletop size, and it's funny. In one of the episodes, I'm like going to push against a wall because, you know, it's Newton's third law, and you push against the walls. And I'm in a studio, and you know, it's curtains. There are no walls. So I thought that was funny. Like,
you don't have anything to push back against. Yeah.
So that was. I think I know we left that in because we only did one take on that. Most of the shots actually, or most of the episodes were one take, first take, no cuts. Everything's just continuous.
You said throughout the entire. I know you mentioned something. It was around like 4 or 5. There were only 4 or 5 cuts or little edits that you had to make throughout the entire thing?
Yeah, so what I did, if I caught a mistake while we were shooting, I just noted the mistake and we just kept going, like I would in a classroom. Like, I said the wrong thing, I meant. All right. And then when I got it home, I would look at the episode critically to make sure I said everything that I correctly and of all the episodes, there were 4 instances where I said something wrong enough that I felt I needed to cut it out, which I did. And if you knew where they were to look for them, you would find them. But I'm not going to tell you where they were.
But only 4 out of 5.5 hours of content that was all done in one take, which is quite impressive, I will say.
That is true. Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah.
Only 4 instances. So, I'd say that's quite a feat. Yeah. How do you think that your involvement in doing this student review and having it be your voice be different than a teacher that they've been listening to explain it in class? Because this isn't meant as a teaching tool as like your first glance, correct?
Yes, the assumption is you've seen this before.
Okay.
And so it's a review. I don't care how good your teacher is or how bad your teacher is, it's always good to hear it from another talking head, right? Or another face, or another way of saying it. Even as a teacher, I like to look at different whatever sources, mostly textbooks I use still, how somebody presents a concept. And then I get a bunch of ideas and I choose what I think is most natural for me. So there's style, there's chemistry, and personal preference. So there's tons of people with good stuff out there on physics videos on YouTube. And the only thing that I think that makes me different is that I'm me, and I do it my way.
That's true.
And it's squeezy. I don't see a lot of people doing review style. I see a lot of people doing, here's your first look at a whatever problem. So hopefully that finds a niche. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So we talked a little bit about how you spent months on this process. Tell us about like the whole timeline and like a quick, how did this start? Did this start in your head? Was this like brainchild happening during your teaching profession?
Yeah, do you know what is it, the 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration or something? Is that Edison? Did you ever hear that? I don't know if that's true.
I don't know if I've heard.
I don't know.
I feel like it sounds familiar.
Allegedly is probably an apocryphal story, but the idea popped into my head last spring. So right now we're sitting in December 2024 right now for our audience. And the series is going to launch in a couple weeks, January 1st.
Less than 2 weeks now.
25, yeah. So I got the idea in the spring. Cup of coffee, notepad. Oh, this would be fun. We should do this. I should do this. That would be cool. Like, what am I going to do after I graduate?
Yes.
Right?
Was this before or after you decided that you were going to retire?
I already knew at the time that I was going to retire in June. So, file it away. I'm on the file of good ideas. And then it just kept coming back to me. And come September, when that back to school vibe is in the air, I'm like, okay, now's the time to start. And that's when I started. So I started around mid-September. And we did our last shoot about 2 weeks ago, right just before Thanksgiving, end of November, we did our last shoot. So probably, a couple months.
And so your routine for one of those shoots, what was that like? Coming in, how long would you stay?
Oh, it was very easy to get into a groove with Nick. What we did was I would come in and have my bin full of demo materials or whatever.
Your springs on a...
my math on my spring, which I still love, is kind of my logo almost now. And so I would come in, he would have things set up. It was a very basic set. My music stand with my iPad on it and an Apple Pencil. Like that was it. Plus the demo table that was around here in the studio. Nick had everything set up. I got mic'd up, and I usually took a minute or two to just kind of get in the groove, and then we did it. And so in one visit, I might have hung out for an hour or two here at the studio and shot 2 or 3, 4 episodes, depending on how complicated they were.
Speaking of the production and the actual videos themselves, let's show a few short clips now that may help the audience understand a little bit more about what your end result actually became. And we'll show that now, and when we get back, we will have 2 more guests coming in, also students from Mr. Posch's class that were in my class, and we'll talk about viewing the actual videos versus our experience in the class. See you soon.
Welcome to another episode of Rapid Review for Honors Physics. Today we're talking about the concepts of distance, displacement, scalars, vectors. What we're talking about is the period for the projectile, the period in which the acceleration is constant. So if I throw this, like all this pushing I'm doing and stuff, not constant acceleration. But once I let it go, it's a projectile and it has constant acceleration all the way down to the time just before I catch it, just before. I have to remember though, if I do that, what the meaning of this t is, right? If I'm gonna get rid of the initial velocity, I have to remember that this is the time for the trip down, t sub down. I strongly encourage you to use subscripts, down, up, or something else, entire trip or total or whatever, for your t's. Conceptually, theta does a lot of things in these problems, and it's worth looking at that. I call it thinking about theta. If we look at the slide, you'll see my force diagram, and I have several different questions about theta. I'm going to step over to the demonstration table here and show you what theta might do at different angles, right? So as theta increases, f sub g in the x increases. I think that's all I need to tell you for today. Let me just check my slides. Oh yes, I'm at the end. That's good. All right, nothing else to say.
All right, hello everybody, we are back, and with us we have our two guests. Over here we have Ava Schwalik. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Just kidding. And then over here we have Samson Maffatori. Hi. And both of them were also in the same physics class in our junior year. We took our class with Mr. Posch, and we had a very, very fun time together.
I am so glad you got the band back together again.
Our little trio
lab
in the front of the
partners.
Yes.
Sat next to each other. Good.
I think for every lab.
Like annoyingly so.
But we are here back again to talk about your rapid reviews.
Yeah.
So we got sent the links to your videos that aren't fully out yet because there's still a little bit of editing that needs to be done, I believe. But it's coming out January 1st. But we have a preview of those, and we want to talk about how we viewed it and our experience viewing it versus our experience in the classroom.
Great.
What did you guys think?
So the first thing that I thought when I was watching these are like, this is a nostalgia trip for me. Like, it felt so similar to how I felt being in the classroom. The same slideshows, like the same green pen that you use. It was really nice. I think online you have the benefit of being able to replay when you don't understand a concept, whereas in class you don't get that, but at the same time you can ask questions, so it's different. But I think it is really cool how authentic you're able to keep it online. Even the demos, like, obviously you're not there in person watching them and you can't help out, but they are really cool still, and they're reminiscent of what we got to experience when we were in the classroom.
Great.
I did really like
that's flattering.
Seeing some of your slides. I saw like one clip where there's a drawing of somebody with a very like large hand. I feel like it's a very like classic Mr. Posch slideshow thing of like a very oddly drawn person with a very large hand holding like a mass. It's like, what is the mass of this? But that like really threw me back to the moments in class where I was like, I know this. Like, this makes sense now.
Yeah, I think the way you incorporated the demos into the videos was great, because when we were in class specifically, those were what made all the concepts make more sense to me. Like, you can obviously do the math 1,000 times over and it's still going to be right, but until I actually sat down and was able to see, like, this is how the ball actually shoots, like my math actually means something, like that was kind of cool to see. Like, all of the physics demos you did in class, connecting those in the videos just made it feel more like class and made it make more sense to me.
Great. Good.
So.
And I believe, if I'm not wrong, one of the projectile units, you had to create your own slide, because in class we had a very thorough experimentation process with those projectiles, but you had to create those because there wasn't a slideshow?
Yeah, that's really funny. And I didn't figure that out till I was all the way up to, wait, Newton's laws is next? Where's all the good projectile stuff? And then I realized that, there were no like expository presentations on how to analyze projectile problems. It was all homework sets, a lot of problem solving in class, but not a presentation, and lab. And that's where, I know you guys as lab partners, you did everything from like shoot it up, shoot it down, shoot it up, shoot it, whatever. You could design your own experiment, and that was how we did projectiles.
That was, I will say, one of the most fun labs that we've ever done. And seeing the videos, it did bring me back to, like, there is a difference, because we had to, like, doing those labs in class was amazing. But the downsides, I would say, of having this be online is that you don't get to see those people doing those labs in front of you. It's just them watching you.
True.
Yeah. We had a very good, fun lab. We were just talking about this before we started rolling. But it was where we had to design our own experiment, and we shot a small little projectile steel ball, and we had to figure out where in the air it would land. So we designed our own experiment, and I believe we have some photos.
And you rigged it. Yeah, I hope we can find the photos and put them up in this interview, because it was really funny. That lab is the funnest for me too, because everybody comes up with the wackiest ideas. And like, you guys had it, like, I don't know, you had strings tied to the ceiling.
Everywhere.
You were up on a ladder.
I was making sure like our little ring didn't fall off the ceiling. They taped it to the
But
table.
it worked.
Yes.
It worked. The equations worked, right?
And it was the scientific process of just of going again and again and again. But like, one of us was holding the string like to the side, and it was so much
I
fun.
just
Good
remember
times,
It was
fun
like the
times.
tensest moment in our friendship ever. Like, if this doesn't land, we are never speaking again.
This lab group is done. First lab we do of the year. Like, if this doesn't go right, I'm finding new partners.
But it went well, and that's why you're here today.
Yeah,
I guess.
that's why we're still here. Yeah, but it was things like those kind of labs that really made the physics in class make sense. So seeing like that
Great.
you kept those demos was
Good.
really great in the videos.
Good.
Your teaching style really goes through, at least for me, I thought that there was like the humor of like little small things that was like, oh, that's so Mr. Posh in the videos. It wasn't just information being blurted out. Even though you're in such a small time constraint, it did feel very personable and
Good.
Like we were there with you.
Nice.
So what do you think? We talked a little bit about the difference of doing demos in class and versus seeing it online.
It's the feedback and the interaction, and like we're doing here, it's the laughs. Like, there's always something to laugh about, right? And that kind of feedback is completely absent when you're in front of a camera, and so you have to like play it. Well, pretty straight. I don't know how I can play it perfectly straight. But I really liked, and I still like, the human interaction and the back and forth and the, like, you just thought of something I didn't even remember, and it made me feel good.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is what I see as the biggest difference between presenting for a camera on YouTube and presenting in front of a classroom for 20 or 25 students. It's just a different experience for the teacher.
And what do you think are some of the advantages, though? So we've talked a little bit about, yeah, you're lacking the human connection, but there are a few advantages to having those rapid reviews. Are there any big ones that you...
Yeah, there's reach, right? So if people are interested and they can benefit, it's not limited to an audience of 25 people, because that's how many desks we have in the room. And we're lucky to have 25, by the way, where we are, right? Not every physics class even gets to be that small. So the advantage, I think, is reach, because I do it once, and then it can be watched as many times as anybody cares to watch it. So I think that's the main benefit.
And again, for people watching, this doesn't have to be just Westford. If you know anybody in a junior or an honors physics course of any kind, this is available to everybody on January 1st, 2025. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, you also mentioned about advantages of having it be online, that you can rewatch it again and again to kind of solidify those concepts.
Good point, and people have said that too. Even my own students, where they like to be able to stop it or run it at 1.25 or 1.5x speed to, because if the thing is going too slow, they want it like, okay, let's move that along. You can't do that in a live class either.
Sometimes in the classroom, like if it's a really hard concept for me, you would explain it to me and I would kind of get it, but then I would make him do it after class. So I think that cuts that part out of it. But also at the same time, like, there is the advantage in class of like being able to ask you the questions, because Aamir does not know everything.
And I welcome that. I like that. It's what keeps the class interesting. Because if you just hear me talk straight for 20 minutes in the class, it's too much. It's too monotone. But when there's interaction, it's just interesting. And for me, it's interesting too.
Yes. I'll say that we all had a very, very fun time in your class.
Yeah.
And I'd like to end on that note of all of us having such an amazing time in your class, and we hope that that can reach so many other people. Again, Rick Posch Physics Teacher is where you'll find this on January 1st, 2025. And again, this is for anybody. So if you know somebody, send this out to them. And we hope you all enjoyed, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.